Common safety procedures. In this lesson, we're going to look at common safety procedures that you as a technician need to be aware of. So let's go ahead and get started. Whether you're a technician that'll be occasionally inside of a computer or a mobile device case, or a technician that primarily focus on repairing systems, it's important to understand the safety issues dealing with the inside of computers, handling system components, and really safely moving that equipment without injuries. As a technician, you need to be aware of safety tips to ensure that you do not hurt yourself or damage the equipment or work and hurt other people as well. Your clients will expect you as a technician to be the professional, to be the knowledgeable source of information to resolve their problems, but and not make them worse by injuring yourself and their equipment. For the CompTIA A plus certification, we're going to go over areas that's on the certification exam, as well as give you a sound understanding of common safety procedures as well. Now, let's look at proper power handling. We all understand that the dangers of electricity to a certain extent. We also know that computers use electricity to operate. But one thing we don't realize or think about is that electricity in some of this circuitry and components is stored. When that computer's turned off, those components still store that electricity. Now, there are certain components that should not be touched by anyone but a trained professional who knows about those parts and how to handle them. Some components also generate heat, which, if not handled correctly, can burn also. These components are found sometimes in high voltage equipment like printers and monitors, power supplies, and cooling equipment. And again, the proper way to handle these, um, and also to be aware of what components not to touch, what components that can be touched and handled. Another area that you as a technician need to be aware of is electrostatic discharge. One of the biggest concerns for components is electrostatic discharge. ESD will not do serious harm to a person other than giving them a little shock, but to a computer it can be devastating. It can cause the computer to fail, to hang, or cause the computer to reboot or to fail or not boot at all. This release of static electricity, when two objects come in contact, can damage systems. Now, examples of ESD that you've probably may be aware of is the shock that you receive when you walk across the carpet and touch something metal. That static electricity that you're feeling, that's the ESD, or electrostatic discharge. ESD first requires a buildup of electrostatic charge. This occurs when two different materials rub together. One of the materials becomes positively charged while the other one becomes negatively charged. The positively charged material now has an electrostatic charge. When that charge comes into contact with the right material, it's transferred, and this is an electrostatic event. The heat from that ESD event is extremely hot, although we don't feel the heat when we're, but we feel it when we're shocked. However, that charge is released into an electronic device or component. It can be very damaging, like an expansion card. That intense heat from that charge can melt or vaporize tiny parts inside of that device. So sometimes we need to do and prepare equipment and ourselves so we don't damage that equipment. One of those ways is using electrostatic or ESD straps. When working on sensitive equipment, these straps can use to prevent damage to those components. An electrostatic discharge strap or anti-static wrist strap is a strap that you attach one end to an earth ground, typically like the computer or the pin of the ground pin of the extension cord, or the computer case, and the other end you wrap around your wrist. This strap grounds you and prevents you from supplying a charge that can damage that equipment. Another piece of equipment is the electrostatic discharge mat. Equipment can be damaged by placing it on a work area or a bench because there may be an electrostatic charge there. The work area could have that charge and can further damage that equipment. So, an ESD mat drains off that excessive charge away from the item that you're working on. Some mats are made also to have the wrist straps built right into them. You just snap the wrist strap right into the mat. And this causes the you as the technician and any equipment that you contact to be grounded properly. Also, you're going to probably need to be aware of anti static bags. You've probably seen these bags before when you order equipment. They're in a silver foil like pouch. Anti static bags protect sensitive electronics devices from static charges. And the way these bags operate is they're designed to collect the static charges on the outside of the bag, not on the electronic components inside of the bag. So that protects those components from being damaged. Equipment grounding. Using a proper ground and outlets to divert faults away is very, very important. Now, outlets ground equipment away through the grounding plug, but you want to make sure that your outlets that you're using are grounded properly. And you may want to use a grounding tester, like the one here on this image. If you plug that into an outlet, the proper way is the amber light should be lit and the red light should be off. That's telling you that you do have a proper ground. In the event you see that red light lit, that means you don't have a proper ground and there's power on that ground. And that could, of course, hurt you and damage that equipment. Also, you may come across grounding straps on different racking equipment, server cabinets, and other type of racking equipments. This helps ground those racks so they're not producing a charge as well. But you want to make sure that you do not ground yourself to that electrical ground because this does not prevent ESD. Personal safety. When it comes to your personal safety and when you're working with equipment, there's some precautions that you need to take to make sure that you don't harm yourself or others or the equipment that you're working on. If you're working on computers and cases and server cases and any type of equipment, you want to make sure that you remove your jewelry and badges or lanyards, things that can get caught up in the equipment that you're working with. Also, lifting techniques. When you're lifting this equipment, some of it's very heavy, servers and devices with a lot of hard drive storages and so forth. They can get very heavy. You want to lift with your legs, not your back, and also keep your back straight as well. Do not twist when lifting. This is common when you're lifting something. You may want to twist or turn, and that can cause injuries. Keep your back with a natural curve. Don't do anything out of the ordinary or unnatural as far as your alignment. Also, you want to make sure that objects are close to your body. You don't want to have your arms extended lifting something heavy. As far as electrical fire safety, a couple things here that you could do to prevent again from causing a fire or causing a fire to even spread more. When you have an electrical fire, do not use water or foam on the fire. What you want to do is use a carbon dioxide, FM200, or other dry chemicals that will suppress that fire. Also, you want to make sure that if a fire does occur, remove it from a power source. If it hasn't been done so beforehand, remove it from a power source, and that could be what's generating the fire or keeping it going. Safety goggles should be used when you're working with chemicals, with working with toners, batteries, and when you're doing equipment repair that have those toxic chemicals. Make sure you're using goggles. And sometimes you may even want to use an air filter mask when you're working with components that have a lot of dusty residue off of it, or even when you're working with dirty and dusty computers or in areas that has a lot of dust. Use an air filter mask. When you're working with computers and equipment that have a lot of dirt and caked up in them, use your mask along with compressed air. This will help dislodge that dust so you can work on that equipment. Sometimes you're going to have compliance and government regulations, and you need to be compliant with those. Sometimes health and safety laws they're going to vary depending on your location, and as far as keeping the workplace hazard free. Also, you're going to come in contact with Occupational Safety and Health Administration or OSHA regulations. Now, OSHA regulations that covers all private sector employees and US postal employees. Usually public sector employees are covered under state programs. So you'll be coming in contact with those OSHA laws as well. In this lesson, we looked at some safety concerns that you need to be aware of, lifting techniques. Also, we talked in detail about the electrostatic discharge that you may come across and what can help prevent those, the ESD mats and the grounding, the wrist straps. Also, the anti-static bags. We talked about briefly about the compliance with government regulations and also personal safety as far as what you should wear, goggles and masks. That's it for this lesson, and I will see you in the next lesson.